Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tuning and Testing with Lawrence. We are going to be taking the Subaru BRZ in full B class around Prague 4. We're going to be chasing JSR Type Y. We don't quite get that, I'll be honest, but you'll see the lap at the very end. 2 laps, that's all it took. Second place by less than a tenth. But you can see the build on your screen if you want to test it out. All the parts that I put in it, I'm pretty sure he uses a slightly different build, but this is the one I went with. Felt nice for me. Watching how his car reacts, very different in how he tuned his, which is always nice to see. You'll get so many different ways of how people build and tune. Suits them, as I said in the previous video. But yep, near enough at the end of the build, full rim size, heaviest rims just to make sure you get the brakes, the aero, the body kit, everything that you're going to actually need. So yeah, let's get right into it and load up Prague full. You see how I tested and tuned first, and here you go, straight into as I had exactly how I did the TVR. Tyre pressures first, left to right in the tune setups. Looking at the pressures, straight away, obviously far too high to what we wanted when we suggested. We wanted 32.5 in that area. I think I do 2 adjustments. I'd go to, it's right here I believe, a 28 flat and a 28.5 because the rears weren't coming up as fast, but they do close to the end of the video. I moved them back to 28. I actually did 2 28s there and then bring it up and then go down. I had to kind of mess around with it, but it was all great. Couldn't really complain about it. Bit of camber watching as well. I think it's another tyre change. Later on, this is still lap 1 in tuning. I think I tuned this over, don't know, 5-6 lap. Obviously not really looking for time, just making sure the car reacted exactly how I want. There you go. Watch the tyre pressures, 32.4, 32.5s, 0.3. Once it comes around this corner though, sits in that sweet spot quite happily. Can't really complain. As you can see, even with like not really much in the tune already, it's quite stable. The car was almost self-driving, but yeah, it really was. I mean, 6+ handling in B class with not a lot of power. It didn't take much thought. No real throttle control. But as you can see there, the car's pushing a bit wide. But we'll get to that with the roll bars. I'm currently watching the power band for the gearbox. As you saw, I've got a sport gearbox, making sure the power is exactly where I want it. A little bit off, so get into the tune setup. And I believe I make it slightly shorter. Yep, so I move it towards acceleration. It means the gearbox gets slightly shorter, which means obviously I bring the power in earlier. It means obviously it will drop off faster, but I don't want 6th gear because in the sport gearbox this car doesn't have enough power in B class with this build to pick it up. It's just completely worthless. So underneath the tunnel at Prague, in my eyes, one of the best circuits that Ford actually come up with. Uh, background, a bit of time travel again. Next lap, I believe we are checking Camber now. So I see a couple of flat spots where it goes positive. So I don't like it. I go over to it, make my adjustments. I move it to 1.2 and 1.0. I know I did that a bit fast. I do apologise. Obviously, 7 caster is always. Very rarely do I come off of that. I make the roll bars a little bit tighter, just so it doesn't have as much understeer. We'll see how that goes. I'm pretty sure we get to see that here. I can't remember, I'll be honest. I cut them down. I'm doing this on the fly. So the car, you just notice, is a lot more nicer arc. It's not trying to bite me. It's not trying to understeer into the wall. Decently happy. We then move on. Oh yeah, I quickly do the aero. See what the lateral G's and the acceleration does. All the way down, all the way up. I get a lot of lateral G's all the way up, but not having a lot of power already is quite hurtful. So this really became, as I spoke about in the TVR, became a secondary roll bar. It gave me a way to incorporate more oversteer whilst also adding speed. So obviously, the more speed orientated your aero is, so the lower, the faster you're going to be in a straight line. also allows for that little bit of movement on the back end. Getting dancing with the wall, getting quite handsy there. In for the last corner. I mean, you know, very little tuning really required for this car. It was really happy, so I can't complain too much. But yeah, it's quite self-driving. It was really easy. I mean, I would recommend it for training purposes. It really is just a nice, easy car to drive. Very easy to pick up. What do we do here? Let's have a quick look. Oh, another robot change, because it's still a little bit understeer in one place. Put the right height all the way down. It doesn't need it. What I did notice in my hot lap later on, I was grinding out on the uphill left. The front bumper was catching, so I actually put it to 4.8. There's no clip of that, so just so you can see, ride height was 4.8, and I also increased the spring rates. Just, you know, always like a little bit of a stiffer car. I went a bit wide. My mistake. Hey ho, it happens. I'm also tuning on fuel and tyres. Sometimes that makes a difference, sometimes not. But seems quite happy here. On the way up to this left-hander, I'm not sure if we get to see it, but you will see what I mean by you don't. The front seems to grab the floor, so obviously the front nose is too low, or it wasn't stiff enough. But I'd rather have the right height, especially for the last double chicane, where that can completely destroy the car. So into the friction, obviously I'm thinking about damping and suspension settings. All looks kind of okay. As I say, the car really looks after itself, especially how that base tune is and how this build is. They seem to go hand in hand really well. You can just get in it and drive it, and you won't notice masses of difference. But I mean, you can start seeing the car wanting to do what I want it to do. So pull the tune sheet up. I'll pull the dampening sheet up now, so you can see what I'm referring to again, and everything you can see there is what I'm adjusting from. So, you know, heightening the rebound to get the better turn in, especially on slowing down and high speed, where the roll bar is just not quite enough, but there's enough movement and suspension where I can do what I want with it. I'm pretty sure this goes up to the 9 area. Yeah, there we go. And it just really does start looking after itself even better than what it does. This comes down to around about 3. You know, it's quite a light car, so it's about 20. I think my bill was 2480 odd, which is not lighter than TVR, but this has got lower spring rates, so it's just not necessary. My brake pressure 4200, very rarely differ from that, and I put a bit more acceleration in it to add that a little bit more oversteer. Lowered the decel to get that back end to swing a little bit more. As you'll see later on in the video, I also make that adjustment again. I go a little bit more on the accel, a little bit less on the decel, trying to get that little bit more reaction out of the car. But these are probably 2 of the harder corners in the throttle applications, and you know, it's pretty sedate. A little bit over there. There's also there's a camber change in the track as you go over the fake train line. He wants to throw the car a little bit. The front bumper also grabs that curb if you catch it wrong. Also another reason for me going to the 4.8 ride height later on. Can't honestly remember what I am tuning here. Ah, the tyre pressure. There you go. There's the tyre pressure change. Rear's got a little bit hot after, might be 9 laps, 10 laps, something like that. Another dampening change based on the picture. And what I can feel, I'm feeling it's still pushing in certain places. Add a bit here, add a bit there, and it, you know, tides itself up over the lap. We're talking, you know, minimal time gain here. This is, you're looking at a tenth, maybe 2 tenths. It's not massive, but you know, when you're trying to chase JSR type ride, for example, or anybody of that caliber, you need everything you can get. I have no doubt if people see this and they want to go run this board, I will probably drop a couple places. But I'd be happy to go run it again. The car is so nice to drive, and when you get it right, especially with this track, through the chicanes, a couple of other places, it is so rewarding. Like to go through here, not get it wrong, which I actually don't. and almost clip the wall. You can actually get a dirty from that wall without hitting it. It's very odd, but welcome to Forza. A couple of track limit issues there, but nah, the car is very, very sweet. Can't really fault it, to be honest. So you can see, me looking at my tuning and whatnot, I'm only getting high 2 minutes, low 201s. Another little roll bar change, make them equal. So that essentially now means that both roll bars are the same stiffness. So it should be equal, basically. There's no inherent understeer, no inherent oversteer. So if that number were further apart in either way, that's what that would create. Slight change, not much. Just want to soften that up for the lower speed turn in. So as I'm braking, it grabs without losing the traction of the tyre, which obviously the diff, if I go too low, I add a little bit though, or minus if you want to look at it like that. And I'm just trying to get a bit more. This is for me. This is a bit of fine tuning for me now. I would say most people wouldn't. You wouldn't want to go above 70, 75 or below 20. This is just because I want the little bit more. After running this now and knowing how the car runs, I would probably say that I would like even more. I would probably actually go lesser front roll bar to get the front to grab a little bit harder. Because when I'm racing Type R, you'll see it in a minute, he's got a little bit more reaction in his car, so it's either toe related or roll bar related, I would say. And his car just seems to be a little bit more refined. But at the end of the day, really is easy. Like I say, a couple of little changes again, fine tune a little bit more. I don't then drive this, so let's get straight on to the lap. And yeah, you'll get to see the lap that I put down, second place on the board. And here we go, literally lap 2. So standstill lap, hot lap, that's all it took. Genocide Type Ride taking that tighter entry. I get him on the exit. He's got, this is where the build is slightly different. You can see it. He's either got a gearbox difference or a ride height, giving him that slight speed in the straight line. Not quite sure what it was, but because I come out in front, you'll see the nose still slightly grabbing the floor. Look at those grind marks. Every one of that is a slight speed loss. So this could still be made quicker just in a ride height change or something like that. Coming out to the beautiful downhill left into the uphill right. He takes this a lot faster than me. I have to blip the throttle for some reason. He can run around there, but I have a little bit more exit speed. So he took the faster corner, I took the faster exit. I take the little bit wider line here. It allows me to carry a touch more on the entrance. He comes out of there again. That I want to say 1 horsepower, something like that. He's very slightly faster in straight line. I get him going underneath the tunnel. I'm looking half a tenth to a tenth now at this speed. It's looking good, looking all very promising. He gets a nice line through here, up out onto the bridge, and we are basically not neck and neck, but you can see it. Like I said, I probably lost a car length exactly in that corner. So you can see there is still room for improvement. Like if you minus out the driver and the cars or the tunes, there is definitely time in this track. I have the faster entrance, he has the faster exit. Probably better off going for the exit though. I just like my entrance. He goes a little bit wide, allows me to catch him a little bit, carrying that speed all the way out, hitting the gear change, just not worth over revving. And there you go, a 59.541, less than a tenth behind Rye, who was at that almost a year ago now. So there you go. Thank you for watching. See you all later.